The next time you have your picture taken down at the DMV, smile extra big. It's for the FBI. I'm Scott Ott with Stephen Green and Bill Whittle. And gentlemen, this story comes to us somewhat unshockingly, that in the Boston Globe, by the way, that federal agents at the FBI and at ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, have been using facial recognition scans of databases from departments of motor vehicles across the country. DMVs, of course, are state-level agencies, and the federal government has been tapping into the DMV databases and turning those into the bedrock, as the Boston Globe story says, into the bedrock of an unprecedented surveillance infrastructure. Members of Congress, from Jim Jordan to Democrats for that matter, are outraged at this. And Jordan says it this way: they've just given access to that to the FBI. No individual signed off on that when they renewed their driver's license or got their driver's license. They didn't sign any waiver saying, oh, it's okay to turn my information, my photo over to the FBI. No elected officials voted for that to happen. Steve Green, little L libertarian. I'll bet you love this one.
Oh, zero authority, zero legal permission or anything like that, and they're just harvesting data. And this isn't a matter of signing up for Facebook voluntarily so you can share cute cat gifs with your friends and family and, high school buddies you haven't seen in 30 years. This is the government scooping up stuff from places you have to report to, like the DMV to get your driver's license. You don't have a choice in this matter. And I don't think we've done a segment on this yet. I've thought about it, but it's not fully in place yet, so there hasn't been a real hook to it. But have you heard about the social credit system that China's been implementing? Yeah. Under this system, everybody's got an app on their phone, and they get to report their neighbors for bad behavior, wrong think, not being dressed well, whatever it is. And you get cases already now where somebody goes to buy a plane ticket, and the light goes off, and the buzzer makes a noise, and oh, no, sorry, you don't have enough social credit to take a flight. You have to go take the train for 12 hours across the country, and you earn social credit back by snitching on your neighbors. It is...
What could go wrong?
Exactly. It's one of the things that destroys dictatorships is a preference cascade. When everybody realizes that they're not the only person who hates this vile regime. And what this China's electronic computerized data harvesting social credit scheme is designed to do is to prevent that from happening by making everybody snitch on everybody else. It's a digital Stasi of eventually all 1.3 billion Chinese people. And if the FBI is harvesting data like this, they are putting the infrastructure in place. It will be in place so that this kind of thing can happen here. This is just frightening as all hell, Scott.
Well, Bill Whittle, you're more of a classical conservative, a strong law and order guy, a guy who believes in strong borders and in getting illegal immigrants out of our country and back where they belong and having them come through in a legal process. ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency, and the FBI are hitting this database some thousands of times. FBI alone about 4,000 times a month, and many of those hits are going to DMVs, Departments of Motor Vehicles throughout the country. Couldn't you, Bill, make a solid argument as a conservative that we need this kind of access to your private information without asking your permission, because the bad guys wouldn't give the permission? So we need to be able to tap into everybody's so that we can sweep up the bad guys.
Yes, absolutely right. And fortunately, we don't have to worry about this, because the idea of the FBI being involved in politics is simply anathema. It's unimaginable. The untouchables are utterly above any kind of political manipulation or any kind of character assassination or whatever else you kind of conjecture you just want to dream up in your own conspiracy theory world. So what could possibly go wrong? Part of living in an era where you see so much erosion of standards and when we see things like this, it's not this that's it's not them taking the pictures that's bothersome. It's what we all know they could do with the pictures that's bothersome. Right? I mean, it is bothersome that they take it without you. There's no question that's morally wrong. I'm not saying that. But in terms of actual harm to our freedoms, I'm just rationalizing is all I'm telling you. This is how I get through my day. You can take all the pictures you want to, but until there's action on them, there's no harm to your personal liberties, but there is enormous potential harm to your liberties. So this is now the reason I say this is because 20 years ago, I did a documentary for Discovery, I guess, as an editor, on I think it was called Catching the Cons. It was about casinos and how they catch cheaters and stuff. And this was 20 years ago, and they were just starting to get this facial recognition technology in. You walk in, it recognizes your face to the casino, and I think, wow, that's really cool. And now I don't think so cool quite so much. But the danger is this. The danger is that by having this kind of a degree of information, they are essentially interrogating every single citizen of the country. And what I mean by that is they've got information on you. At the very least, they've got your face and your address and all the rest of it without you having committed any crimes and without any probable cause. If you have the ability to, let's just take this to its logical conclusion. If they've been taking pictures of people's faces, this is not for a Facebook montage. So what they've been doing is they've been tying people's faces to known facts about them in their files. And then when that face shows up on facial recognition technology, then that file will come up. That's the only reason to do this. They're basically, I'm not saying they have a dossier on every single American, but what I am saying is they do have dossiers on some people. And by tying people's faces into some kind of a record, even if it's just a record of your driver's license, any camera that's capable of doing facial recognition technology, and that's a lot of them these days, pretty much every iPhone 10 does it. Well, it does it very well. That means that whenever somebody walks into a building with a camera that's capable of doing this, you have instant access to pretty much everything that's known about that person. You can look at their tax records, you can look at their school records, you can look at anything. And now we're in Fourth Amendment territory where you are in the act of going out in public, you are disclosing all of your personal papers, property, and all the rest of it. Your face has to come with you when you go outside. I ought to know I was an acne-covered teenager for the longest time. There's not much you can do about that. So since your face comes with you wherever you go, and since this technology is capable of reading your face and revealing all of the kind of things about you that would normally require a warrant, this is a problem. And Scotty, here's my feeling on this. I feel the same way about this as I feel about terrorism. I feel the same way about all of these security issues. Law and order is great, and stopping terrorists is great, and controlling illegal immigration is great. All of these things are great. But illegal immigration and out of control crime and even a terrorist A-bomb in Times Square will not destroy the United States. They'll hurt us, but they won't destroy it. What will destroy the United States is not even the application of this so much as the sense that Americans more and more and more every day believe that they have to be careful about what they say and who they say it to. And when that infection starts to hit this country, that is a terminal disease, and that's something we ought to take real seriously.
Yeah. Scott, can I throw something in?
Sure.
Do you remember a few years ago when Apple introduced their own Maps app for the iPhone, and it was just a disaster at launch? They wanted to replace Google Maps because Google wasn't respecting privacy, so they came out with their own app, and they pushed it out there with an iOS release on the iPhone. And it was just awful. In fact, it got the guy behind the iPhone, Scott Forstall, fired from Apple shortly thereafter. It was awful. The problem wasn't the app, though. The app was actually okay. It might not have been quite as good as Google Maps as an app, but it was fine. The problem was the data sucked. Getting the data is the hard part. Writing the app is the easy part, and their data sucked. That's why people were trying to drive over rivers where there was no bridge. The data sucked. Well, if the FBI, the NSA, and whoever else is already hoovering up the data, the rest is just writing the app. That's the easy part.
Well, I know that there are some people who are going to hear this story and think a number of things. First of all, It's good that we make it as easy as possible for the FBI to catch terrible people. Secondly, it's good that we empower the Immigration and Customs Enforcement people to get those illegal aliens and get them out of our country. There is this general idea that the American government means good, and therefore we should empower them to do the good that they mean to do. I lack the confidence in at least today's American government to do that good without so much taint of corruption that they can be safely entrusted with such powers. I also have a big problem with the fact that this wasn't made a major public relations effort on the part of the federal government that said, look, the FBI needs this data. We're asking you, the American people, to pass a law through your representatives to authorize us to take that and to allow you to opt out, frankly, although an opt-out database might as well just put those people right in jail. Anybody who opts out must be a criminal. We have this view in the United States that is an interesting one. The way a lot of countries, and especially countries that are run by authoritarian regimes, believe is that in order to get the bad guys, we need to be willing to hurt some of the good guys. In the United States, we say in order to protect the good guys, we need to be willing to let some of the bad guys go free. And I'll finish this up by saying this. After the Oklahoma City bombing a number of years ago, I went down to visit a friend who had lost his grandbabies in the explosion. And as part of work as a chaplain among the news media, believe it or not, I ran into a guy who in the initial hours after the explosion had been labeled by law enforcement and then by the media as a potential suspect. And his name was everywhere. And it was going out over all the cable channels and all the radio stations. And then eventually they figured out that it wasn't him. How long will it take such a man to recover his reputation? How long will it take him to recover from the feeling that the entire country was out to get him?
Never. I
don't know if I met him today, whether he would be completely over that. And so for those of you who think, well, it's not so bad, if you actually accidentally get caught up in something because your face was in the database that the FBI scanned without your consent, at least we're getting the bad guys. But I think it is so bad. I think it's bad enough to say the federal government and state governments ought to pass laws to forbid the FBI and ICE from sweeping up any kind of data without explicitly granting permission. And in this case, because it's something as fundamental as a driver's license, we don't have the luxury to opt out the way you would with some things.
Exactly.
Because we need, and most people believe, we need to have a driver's license. We need to be able to travel on the roads. So you can't just say, well, if you don't want to be in the FBI database, well, then just don't get a driver's license. I don't think that there's a solid argument. If you'd like to make it, do so in the comments section below, but I don't think there's a solid argument for involuntary sweeps of photos and data of non-criminal, non-accused Americans by the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible.